Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. Today on the show, we've got Angel Reese's signature shoe debut. What's next for Sabrina and JuJu Watkins becoming a Lebron athlete, the week's hottest release, and of course, we have our Hard Pass. All right, let's start the show with some hot takes. So a few months ago, we got our first look at Angel Reese's official signature logo. Previously, we had seen a few variations that styled her name in various ways. The logo reveal also came with the hint of when we would see her signature shoe debut, 2026, as in a year from now. As in, we're probably going to see Angel rock the Reebok Engine A in various player exclusives for the rest of the 2025 WNBA season. Turns out, Reebok are a bunch of liars. I blame Jacques because as part of the reveal that Angel would be the cover athlete of the WNBA edition of NBA2K 26, she's wearing the Reebok Angel Reese 1. I mean, I applaud the swerve, Reebok. Very well done. In the grand tradition of just using the athlete's whole name to name the signature shoe a la the Anthony Edwards 1 by Dious, the Reebok Angel Reese 1 debuted in what's being called the Diamond Dust colorway. At first glance, it looks like a lifestyle version of the Engine A, but I guess that makes sense, right? While it certainly did not start that way, the Engine A felt like a Protro Angel signature shoe. The Angel Reese 1 is the next iteration of that. Now, I'm going to be very curious to see what's next for this sneaker. No release information was given, so I wonder if the shoe is actually still a work in progress and was, quote, rushed because Reese got the 2026 cover. Not saying that the shoe will be released before it's fully tested and ready to go, but I wonder if doing a very long rollout like what Converse is now doing with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the right move. On the other side of the signature shoe release spectrum is the debut of the Nike Sabrina 3. We've got the blueprint and the all-star colorways coming in the next few weeks, and if this kid's reaction to the Sabrina 2 is any indication, I think things are going to be just fine for the Sabrina 3. While co-writer expressed his hesitation on last week's Too Hard to Pass podcast, you can check it out Tuesdays at 2 p.m., the Sabrina 3 does represent a change for the line. The Sabrina 1 and 2 left no doubt that they were basketball shoes at first sight, while the 3 moves into more ambiguous territory. Lifestyle. No. Runner and trainer. Yeah, that's a little more warmer. I don't doubt that these will be a hit for hoopers like the previous two Sabrinas, but I am curious to see how they will play around with the colors and if they will go for a different energy than before. And while Sabrina represents the present of Nike basketball, could JuJu Watkins be next in line for a signature shoe? Now, before we get to that, I'm going to need the Caitlin Clark stans to calm down. Chill out and maybe log off. She's getting her own shoe before JuJu. Relax. Okay. Back to business. According to Complex Sneakers, JuJu is getting 2 GT Future exclusives, and next year she will be rocking a yet-to-be-revealed LeBron in NXT Gen shoe, which would make sense since JuJu was a featured athlete for the LeBron Trainer 1. With LeBron James expected to hang it up within the next year or 2 or 10, who knows? It would be smart for the LeBron brand to look to people besides Bronny and Bryce to carry the torch. I'm sure we'll see other Nike NIL athletes take up the LeBron mantle, but right now, JuJu is a pretty big name to start with. Hopefully, she's making good progress with her injury recovery because, her future is really bright, man. All right, it's the pick of the week. It's WNBA All-Star Weekend, and like their NBA counterpart, Nike and Jordan Brand are dropping some themed signature kicks to celebrate the event. For Nike's 2 WNBA stars with signature kicks, we've got the debuting of the Nike Sabrina 3 and a new Oyster-inspired edition of the Nike A1. But that's not all, as we're also getting the Total Orange Nike Kobe 6 Protro that we're definitely going to see on a handful of All-Stars during the big game. On the Jordan Brand front, I doubt we're going to see the Starfish Air Jordan 3 during the game, but this woman's exclusive will be in stores the same day as Nike's offerings. I am curious to see if a Jordan Brand athlete like Nafisha Collier will rock the classic colorway of the Air Jordan 40, or if she's got something else planned. Fingers crossed. So we have the Nike A1 All-Star on July 18th for $125. The Nike Calm Slide Asia Wilson on July 18th for $55. The Nike Sabrina 3 All-Star on July 18th for $135. The Nike Kobe 6 Protro WNBA on July 18th for $190. And the Women's Air Jordan 3 Starfish on July 18th for $200. All right. before we get to the hard pass, let's do some sports and sports adjacent sort of things. First up, congratulations to Nico Hulkenberg. The Sauber F1 driver reached the podium for the first time in his career after 239 races, the longest wait for a podium in the history of the championship. Like most F1 casuals, we got our first introduction to Hulkenberg in Netflix's Drive to Survive in one particularly brutal scene. He made an appearance at a Microsoft store to meet a group of kids who asked him how many wins he had, and he had to awkwardly say, none. It colored our perception of the Hulk ever since. A talented driver, sure, but the lack of wins and podiums was an albatross that hung over his career. If you hear F1 Grid talk about him, he's always had the skills to be a top driver. It's just that he's never been with the right team at the right time with the right car. Well, his car and his team might not be right still, but for one afternoon in Silverstone, a combination of British weather and critical strategic calls got him all the way to third place after starting 19th, keeping a freaking Ferrari driven by Sir Lewis Hamilton at bay. It was cool to see Hulk up there holding a Lego trophy. Why was it a Lego trophy? It's cool, don't ask. And even though he didn't actually win the race, the beauty of the sport like F1 is that the fans understood why that didn't matter. The actual gap in seconds between a front of the pack team like McLaren and a midfield bunch like Sauber might be a few seconds, but it might as well be days and weeks when you look at the points standing. That's why even the third spot in the podium is so difficult to achieve if you're not a top team. I mean, the post-race celebration by Sauber was rowdier than when the Oklahoma City Thunder won the NBA championship. Just a great story and something that I hope will get covered in DTS next year. Congratulations to the team and congrats to Hulkenberg. Oh, and Red Bull sacked their longtime principal. Yikes. And we're just halfway through the season, and now we wait to see if this is the move that is what keeps Max Verstappen at Red Bull, or is this the final straw before George Russell has to look for a new seat next year? Not that we're starting any rumors or anything. All right, next, let's talk about the Open Championship, a.k.a. the OG Golf Major that crowns the champion golfer of the year. Man, as cool as the green jacket is, there's something about being given the title and winning in the part of the world where the game was born that feels unlike anything else in the sport. But unlike F1, no one cares who places third or second. It's about being the one, and I can't wait to see who's going to take home the title. I gotta say, the Open returning to Royal Portrush, a lot of people are going to be rooting for a Shane Lowry repeat. He's one of the most popular players on the tour, so the crowd is going to be in his favor. Of course, we can't forget about Scottie Scheffler, a walking dub anytime he steps foot on the golf course. The only problem is that based on past results, the Open is the major he has performed the worst at. Let's hope this is not his version of Rory McIlroy's Masters chase. Speaking of Rory, co-writer thinks that despite the theatrics, Rory needs to get his Dirk Nowitzki post-championship phase where he calms down and enjoys the fact that he finally got the career Grand Slam he's been chasing for forever. The sooner he eases up, the better off he'll be. And those are just three of the big names. Does Colin Morikawa have another major in his bag? Can a Victor Hovland or Ludwig Oberg string together 4 days and get their first major? What about the live guys who still remember what it's like to play a real 72-hole tournament? If I were to make a somewhat daring pick for the sake of entertainment, I'd go with Jason Day. He's been playing well this year, and he's a runner-up back in 2023. But if I'm a degenerate gambler in the Adam Sandler Uncut Gems mode, I gotta go with Scotty. It's gonna happen for him eventually. I just wonder if it's this weekend. And finally, it's a busy wrestling weekend with AEW's biggest event of the year going down and WWE trying some counter-programming to steal some thunder from the competition. Here are some predictions that I'm sure are gonna be wrong, but, would be fun if they happened. All right, let's start with WWE and NXT's Great American Bash. No one cares. The card has easily booked. Nothing of consequence will happen. Let's move on. Saturday night's main event, a bunch of matches that could have been on a regular Monday Night Raw and Goldberg's last match. Yes, you heard that correctly. A 58-year-old Bill Goldberg is having his retirement match against the current world champion, Gunther. What should happen is Gunther beating the hell out of Goldberg with the swiftness that Goldberg used to wreck his opponents back in the 90s. What will happen is Gunther carrying Grandpa to a 50-50 competitive affair, making the old man look good on the way out, and the guy who was ostensibly the top performer in the company today look like a chump, potentially ruining his credibility in the long term. And then there's the all-women Evolution show on Sunday, a supposed celebration of how far wrestling has come since the first Evolution back in 2018. It would be a celebration if the card wasn't hastily put together and was actually given time to develop on television, and to hold it in Atlanta on the same night as MLB's All-Star Sunday festivities and a freaking Beyonce concert is so dumb and short-sighted that the only conclusion that you can draw from it is that the WWE is petty as hell. Hey, sometimes it works and it's funny, but man, to throw your women's division under the bus like this, a freaking Beyonce concert, like, really? Isn't the first rule of booking is you don't schedule anything within 100 miles of a Beyonce concert? MLB can get away with it because it's MLB, and I'm going to go on a limb here and say the demographics of MLB and Beyonce ain't the same. But to think WWE is going to force their women's fan base to pick between a crappy card and the queen, and no, I'm not talking about Charlotte Flair or Jade Cargill. WWE, you're wild for this one. Like, Rhea Ripley is probably going to be crowned women's champ, and no one's gonna care or hear about it until the next day. Anyway, wild moves on WWE's part, just to be a thorn on a promotion that they claim is not a competition. Whatever. Anyways, AEW All In is going to deliver on the match side like they always do. And here are our predictions that are going to be horribly out of date by the time you watch this. MJF will win the Casino Gauntlet because he's the most interesting character in the match. The Young Bucks will beat Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay because the story of those two not being able to compete for the World Championship for a year will open up opportunities for others to step up. Mercedes Moné will beat Toni Storm for the Women's World Championship and piss off a very goofy section of the wrestling internet. And Hangman Page will beat John Moxley just because the Moxley hiding the belt story has been going on far too long and needs to resolve. Like, finally. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass. We're going to take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go. Okay, first up is the signed Pop Leo card by the newest Pope, Pope Leo. Get it? The kid got a Pop Leo card signed by Pope Leo, Pop Leo, Pope Leo. Look, at first I thought it was just a gag, and then it turned out to be, like, legit. So it's funny as a one-off, but we all know that it's going to lead to a bunch of clout chasers going to the Vatican just to get something dumb signed. Like, if those Paul brothers were still into disrespecting entire countries and making a mockery of sports, both real and worked, they would be right there trying to get the Pope to sign a bottle of Prime. Let's just say this Pop Leo moment and keep it that way. Anyways, let's get to the real one. This week's Hard Pass goes to NBA2K's choice of cover athletes. No, it's not Angel Reese, you Caitlin Clark fans. Spare me the embarrassing argument of why Clark should be the cover athlete and blah, 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 when we all know you don't actually give a shit about Clark. You just want to bring Angel down because of culture war bullshit. And the easiest way to aura farm is to knock Angel. Do I think she's a better player than Caitlin? No, but she has been healthy and on the court this year and has been putting up great numbers despite being on a bad team. Angel Reese earned her all-star spot and her 2K cover and her signature shoe. Barring injury, Caitlin will do the same because she's inevitable. It just didn't happen this year, and you know what? It's okay, fans. She's going to be okay. So, do I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't deserving of the 2K cover? Are you kidding me? It would be malfeasance to not make him cover star. Regular season MVP, scoring champ, NBA champ, finals MVP, debut signature shoe. He's cover athlete material. Easy. No, we're talking about Carmelo Anthony, the subject of the Legend Edition. Now, before the Melo Hive comes for me and co-writer, allow me to explain. We're not saying Carmelo Anthony doesn't deserve the Legend Edition cover. Actually, Melo is more than deserving of the Legend cover, and it's actually a case study for what type of retired player should be the face of that edition of the game. We even understand why he was chosen this year. Like Vince Carter last year, Melo is going to the Basketball Hall of Fame in a few months, and what better way for 2K to capitalize on that moment than by making Melo their guy for the game's ultra-expensive limited edition version. So yeah, Carmelo Anthony, NBA 2K Legend Edition cover athlete. Makes sense. We just feel that neither Carmelo nor Vince, nor some of the picks 2K has made over the years should have been a Legend Edition cover before the OG of NBA 2K, Allen Iverson. Let's go back in time. In 1999, Sega would launch their final video game console, the Dreamcast. One of the marquee titles for the system was NBA 2K, and it would change the way we looked at basketball video games and really sports video games as a whole. From the graphics to the presentation to the gameplay, Sega and developer Visual Concepts were light years ahead of the competition. I mean, No disrespect to EA and NBA Live or 989 Sports and NBA Shootout or even Nintendo and NBA Courtside. But if you were there the first time Sega showed off 2K, there was no turning back. And the same applied to the first 2K cover athlete, Allen Iverson. Besides being a once-in-a-generation type of athlete, AI represented a cultural shift in the NBA. He was revolutionary in the same way that 2K was revolutionary. Iverson would go on to represent 2K for the first 5 years of the franchise's existence, as Sega went from having their own console to going multi-platform by 2002. If you want to talk about the face of 2K, it was AI. Even after Ben Wallace took over for 2K5 and Shaq brought 2K6 to the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation, Iverson was still that guy. If we had to pick when things changed for AI and 2K, really, it was around the time when Kobe Bryant became the cover athlete of 2K10 and Michael Jordan returned for 2K11. As culturally significant as Allen Iverson was, he's not topping the 1-2 combo of the GOAT and the one many consider to be the follow-up to the GOAT. Since their respective debuts as cover athletes, both Kobe and MJ have graced the regular and limited editions of the game multiple times over. And as EA Sports bowed out, 2K would become for basketball video games what Madden became for football video games, behemoths with no real competition. And when you're the only game in town, being picked to be the cover athlete means more than ever. And ever since 2K started creating legends and WNBA variations of the cover, we get to play the game of whether or not 2K got the cover right or wrong on a yearly basis 3 times over, which brings us back to Melo and, in a way, Vince. There's a lot of people out there who find the choice of both to be curious. It's an extension of the hating ass haters who refuse to give them their credit they deserve for being all-time greats who also had a huge impact on the culture. For Melo, he made the Denver Nuggets cool and relevant before Nikola Jokic made them champions, and he brought an energy to New York that the city hadn't had since Patrick Ewing's prime. And Vince, well, he's Air Canada, man. Yes, it ended badly, but it's water under the bridge now. And with both being Hall of Fame headliners, their cover athlete status makes a lot of sense. Until you wonder why the hell Allen Iverson hasn't gotten the call. Now, there doesn't seem to be any beef between 2K and AI. Like, he's consistently featured as a legend in the game itself, and he always got some pink diamond Galaxy supercard that people keep bugging Ronnie 2K for or whatever. It's just a little bizarre that the guy who carried the torch for the early part of the franchise's history hasn't been brought back and given his flowers once again. Like, there have been so many opportunities to bring him back. Kobe got the spot in 2K17 because he retired in 2016, but that was also the year Allen went to the Hall of Fame. 2K19 for the 20th anniversary? Yeah, sure, LeBron is worthy of the spot, but that would have been perfect for AI. We get why he got passed over for 2K21, 23, and 24, but we couldn't even squeeze him into 2K22 alongside Kareem, Dirk, and KD? Or, just do a solo version with just AI? I don't know. It's just one of those weird bits of 2K lore that needs to be resolved someday. Congrats to Melo, but yeah, let's get AI in there soon. You know what I mean? All right. That's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I'm Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week. If you would like to possibly be featured in a future episode, call us at 818-493-9325. Leave a short message or socials if you want, no more than 30 seconds. All right. I'll see you next week. Peace.